Welcome to Elder Secrets, where wisdom meets longevity. What if one simple morning drink could add a whole decade to your life? In today's episode, we uncover the time-tested ritual hiding in plain sight, backed by science, cherished by the world's oldest people. Let's sip into the secret that could change your mornings and your years forever. You're not just listening. You're unlocking life.
Good morning and welcome to this deep dive. Okay, imagine this. What if I told you there's a simple drink, probably sitting in your kitchen right now, that could seriously extend your lifespan? We're talking about that amazing aroma, the one that kickstarts billions of days worldwide. Coffee.
Coffee, yeah.
Today we're diving deep, looking way beyond just the caffeine buzz to uncover its, profound link with longevity.
Exactly. And our mission here isn't about, chasing the latest health fad or some expensive potion.
Right.
It's about digging into decades of solid scientific research, stuff from really prestigious institutions.
Right.
We want to unpack why your morning cup might actually be one of the most important health choices you make.
And this isn't just speculation, is it?
Not at all. We're talking about consistent evidence suggesting, potentially cutting your risk of dying from heart disease by 25%, maybe slashing your chances of type 2 diabetes by nearly 30%, protecting your brain.
Wow.
And maybe even adding healthy years to your life. We'll look at the research, the best ways to drink it, and clear up some common myths.
Okay, so let's rewind a bit, because for a long time, coffee kind of had a bad rap, didn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Like maybe something your doctor might have warned you about. It's fascinating how that whole perception has flipped.
It really is.
Yeah.
And you're right. Back in the, say, 70s and 80s, doctors often advised against it.
Why was that? What was the concern?
Well, the early research seemed to link coffee drinking with things like increased heart rate, higher blood pressure, maybe even heart disease.
Okay.
But here's the crucial thing. Those early studies often failed to account for confounding variables.
Confounding variables, meaning
Other lifestyle factors. Think about it. Back then, heavy coffee drinkers often smoked heavily too. They maybe didn't have the best diets, weren't very active. So it was easy to point the finger at coffee when actually these other unhealthy habits were likely the real culprits, skewing the results.
So coffee was guilty by association, basically.
Pretty much, yeah. It kept bad company, scientifically speaking.
That makes a lot of sense. So what changed? When did the scientists start thinking, hang on, maybe coffee isn't the bad guy here?
Well, the big shift happened as research methods got much, much better, more sophisticated.
How so?
Scientists started controlling for those confounding variables, smoking, diet, exercise, all that stuff. They began using large-scale, long-term prospective studies.
Following lots of people for a long time.
Exactly. Huge groups, sometimes for decades. That gives you a much clearer picture.
And wasn't the nurses' health study a key part of this? I feel like I've heard about that one.
You definitely have. It was pivotal. Started back in 1976, followed over 120,000 female nurses for more than 30 years.
Wow.
And it provided some of the first really clear evidence that actually coffee seemed to be linked with reduced mortality.
Yeah.
Lower risk of death.
Reduced, not increased.
Reduced.
Yeah.
It was so surprising, went so against the grain, that the researchers themselves apparently double-checked their findings. They were like, is this right?
That's amazing. That's how science should work, though, right? Challenging what we think we know with solid data.
Absolutely.
So how did that initial surprise turn into this widespread acceptance we see now from big health organizations?
It was kind of a snowball effect, really. Once that solid evidence started coming out, places like the Harvard School of Public Health, the American Heart Association, even government dietary guidelines, they all started to take a fresh look.
They couldn't ignore it anymore.
Exactly. And then came the meta-analyses. These are super powerful because they pooled data from tons of individual studies.
Combining results.
Yeah, involving millions of participants in total. When you see the same protective effects popping up again and again across these massive data sets, well, it becomes pretty undeniable. Coffee's benefits are real.
Millions of participants. That scale is just incredible. It's not just a fluke finding in one small group.
Not at all. We're talking rigorous investigations, tracking people's health and habits over decades.
Can you give us some examples? Like, what are some of those landmark studies that really nailed this down?
Sure. A big one was published in the New England Journal of Medicine back in 2012.
Okay.
It followed over 400,000 people, age 50 to 71, for more than 13 years. And the findings were remarkable.
What did they find?
Get this. Men who drank coffee had a 10 to 15% lower risk of death during the study. For women, it was 10 to 16% lower.
Just from drinking coffee, even after accounting for other things.
Even after controlling for a whole bunch of lifestyle factors, yeah. And the protective effect seems strongest for people drinking around 3 to 5 cups a day. It's powerful evidence.
Wow. Okay. That really sets the stage. What came after that?
Well, in 2015, there was a big study in Circulation. This one combined data from those nurses' health study groups. Over 200,000 people followed for up to 30 years.
30 years?
Yeah. And it showed regular coffee drinking reduced the risk of death from a whole range of things. Cardiovascular disease, neurological diseases, type 2 diabetes, even suicide.
A broad spectrum of benefits then.
Definitely. And what's really interesting is the dose response they saw. 1 cup a day. About a 6% lower risk. 3 to 5 cups daily. Around a 15% lower risk. It seemed to plateau around 5 cups.
Okay, so there's a sweet spot.
Seems like it. And here's a really crucial point for anyone worried about caffeine.
Yeah.
The benefits were seen with both caffeinated and decaf coffee.
Oh, interesting. So it's not just the caffeine.
Right. Suggests other compounds in coffee are playing a big protective role too.
And was this just a U.S. phenomenon, or did studies elsewhere find similar things?
Great question. No, it was seen across the pond too.
Yeah.
European studies backed it up.
Like which ones?
There's a huge one called the European Prospective Investigation into Cancer and Nutrition EPIC study. Over 500,000 people, 10 countries, followed for 16 plus years.
Yeah.
Same story. Higher coffee consumption linked to a lower risk of death from all causes. And then to really tie it all together, a major review came out in the BMJ in 2017.
A review of reviews, right? An umbrella review.
Exactly. It looked at over 200 meta-analyses. 200.
Oh, wow.
And its conclusion was pretty clear. Coffee drinking was, and I quote, more often associated with benefit than harm for a whole host of health outcomes, especially around that 3 to 4 cups a day level.
Okay, so pulling all this massive evidence together, what's the bottom line for us listening?
The bottom line is that we have consistent, really robust evidence from huge high-quality studies all over the world. It points strongly towards coffee offering substantial protection against numerous chronic diseases and potentially lowering your overall risk of dying early.
It's not just wishful thinking for coffee lovers.
Not at all. It's a genuine, scientifically observed pattern. It's actually a pretty profound shift in how we understand this everyday drink.
It really is fascinating, and it makes you wonder because we tend to just think caffeine, right? But coffee is obviously much more complex.
Oh, absolutely.
What's actually in the cup beyond the caffeine that's doing all this amazing work?
That's the million-dollar question. Coffee is incredibly complex. Over 1,000 different chemical compounds identified.
1,000? Wow.
Yeah. But perhaps the most important players are a group called chlorogenic acids.
Chlorogenic acids. Okay.
They're the most abundant bioactive compounds, maybe 7 to 10% of the dry weight of green beans, and they are potent antioxidants.
Meaning they fight cell damage?
Exactly. They neutralize those harmful free radicals that contribute to aging and many diseases. Plus, they seem to play a big role in how our bodies handle sugar. They influence glucose metabolism, help regulate blood sugar, improve insulin sensitivity.
Ah, which explains the link to lower diabetes risk.
Precisely. That's thought to be a key reason for that strong protective effect.
So antioxidants doing a lot of the heavy lifting. Are there other key compounds we should know about?
Definitely. You've got diterpenes like cafestol and cowiol.
Cafestol and cowiol. Heard of those.
They have anti-inflammatory effects and seem to be protective for the liver. There's also trigonelin, which shows promise for brain health neuroprotective properties. And then there are melanoidins. These are formed during roasting. They give coffee its color and flavor, but they also seem to have antioxidant and anti-inflammatory activity too. It's like a whole team of beneficial compounds working together.
A symphony, almost.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
And caffeine itself. You know, it gets blamed for the jitters, but does it have a positive role beyond just waking us up?
It absolutely does. Yes, too much can cause anxiety or jitters for some people, but in moderate amounts, caffeine is a mild central nervous system stimulant.
So it helps focus.
Yes, it improves cognitive function, things like attention, reaction time, memory. It can also boost physical performance. And importantly, it's neuroprotective.
How so?
It seems to reduce the risk of diseases like Parkinson's and Alzheimer's, partly by blocking something called adenosine receptors in the brain. So caffeine is definitely part of the benefit package.
It's almost hard to believe one drink can affect so many different body systems. Heart, metabolism, brain. Is there like an underlying theme, a master mechanism connecting all these benefits?
That's a really sharp question. While there are many specific actions, one major unifying factor seems to be coffee's anti-inflammatory power.
Anti-inflammatory?
Yeah, study after study links regular coffee consumption with lower levels of inflammatory markers in the blood, things like C-reactive protein, interleukin-6.
And chronic inflammation is bad news, right? Linked to aging disease.
Exactly. Chronic low-grade inflammation is now seen as a key driver of the aging process and many age-related diseases. So by consistently helping to dial down that inflammation, coffee seems to offer this broad protection across the board. It's like it's quietly calming things down inside.
Okay, let's zone in on some specific organs then. The heart, this is where the story really flipped, right? From bad for the heart to potentially protective.
Totally flipped. It's one of the most striking reversals. Remember those old worries? Well, long-term studies show the opposite.
Like what?
There was the cardiovascular health study, over 5,000 older adults over 65. It found that people drinking 4 or more cups a day actually had a lower risk, 20% lower of certain heart rhythm problems.
Lower risk? That seems counterintuitive if you think about caffeine making your heart race.
It does seem counterintuitive, but that's what the long-term data showed. And another huge meta-analysis, this one in Circulation in 2013, pooling data from over 1.2 million people, found that moderate consumption, again, that 3 to 5 cup range, was linked to an 11% lower risk of heart failure.
So how does it help the heart?
Well, the antioxidants help prevent LDL cholesterol, the bad kind, from oxidizing, which is a key step in plaque buildup. It seems to improve endothelial function, basically, how flexible and healthy your blood vessel linings are.
Okay.
And it might generally improve lipid profiles, even with those minor concerns about cafestol and CoWal, raising LDL slightly and some unfiltered brews. The overall package seems beneficial.
Like in stroke.
Also seems lower. A meta-analysis looking at 11 studies found about a 17% reduction in stroke risk with moderate coffee drinking.
Incredible. Okay, moving on to metabolic health. Yeah. You mentioned diabetes earlier. This seems like one of coffee's real strong points.
It absolutely is. The evidence here is incredibly consistent and robust. That protective effect against type 2 diabetes just keeps showing up.
How strong is the effect?
Remember that 2014 Diabetologia meta-analysis? Over 1.1 million people. It found each extra daily cup was linked to a 7% reduction in diabetes risk.
7% per cup.
Yeah. So drinking 3 to 4 cups a day correlated with about a 25% lower risk overall. And again, this holds true for both regular and decaf.
Oh, wow. How does it work? Is it just the chlorogenic acids?
They're definitely key, improving insulin sensitivity. But coffee also seems to affect the incretin system. These are gut hormones like GLP-1 that help manage blood sugar after meals. Coffee might boost their release or effectiveness.
Interesting. And it's not just diabetes, right? What about metabolic syndrome?
Right. Reduced risk there too. One Korean study found a 33% lower risk of metabolic syndrome for people drinking more than 3 cups a day.
And wait, does coffee help with weight management?
The evidence suggests it's associated with lower body weight and reduced risk of obesity. Part of that might be caffeine's thermogenic effect. It can slightly boost your metabolic rate, maybe by 3 to 11%.
So burning a few extra calories.
Potentially, yeah. And some studies suggest drinking coffee before exercise might enhance fat burning during the workout.
Okay, good to know. Now, brain health. This is something I think we're all increasingly focused on as we age. What's the picture with coffee?
It's a really exciting area. The evidence is building. For Alzheimer's disease, a meta-analysis back in 2010 suggested a 27% lower risk for people drinking 3 to 5 cups a day.
27%, that's significant.
It is. And for Parkinson's disease, the link is even stronger, maybe a 25 to 30% lower risk. But interestingly, this seems specifically linked to caffeinated coffee.
Ah, so caffeine is key there.
Seems to be. The mechanism is thought to involve caffeine blocking those adenosine receptors we mentioned, which helps protect certain neurons. Coffee also seems to boost levels of BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor.
BDNF. What's that?
It's like Miracle-Gro for your brain cells. It promotes the growth and survival of neurons. Plus, coffee's general anti-inflammatory effects likely help fight neuroinflammation, which is implicated in many brain diseases.
And what about just day-to-day brain function, focus, memory?
Clear benefits there, too. Improved attention, faster reaction times, better short-term memory. There was a French study that found older women drinking 3 or more cups a day had less decline in verbal memory and processing speed over time.
Fascinating. Okay, let's tackle cancer. Because as you mentioned, coffee used to be on that possible carcinogen list. That sounds scary.
It did sound scary, and it caused a lot of confusion for years.
How did that change? It seems like a huge reversal.
It was a huge reversal based on much better, more comprehensive evidence. In 2016, the International Agency for Research on Cancer, the IARC, part of the World Health Organization, officially removed coffee from that list.
Took it off the list entirely.
Entirely. Because the mountain of evidence showed it wasn't causing cancer overall and, in fact, seemed to be protective against certain types.
Protective? Against which cancers?
The strongest evidence is for liver cancer, maybe a 40% reduction, with some studies suggesting about a 20% lower risk for each additional daily cup.
40%. Wow.
Yeah. Also, endometrial cancer, maybe an 18% lower risk, and melanoma, skin cancer, around 20% lower risk, particularly with caffeinated coffee again. There's also growing evidence for a potential protective effect against colorectal cancer.
How does it protect against cancer? What are the mechanisms?
It likely involves multiple pathways. The antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties are huge fighting cell damage and chronic inflammation. Coffee compounds might help neutralize potential carcinogens from our diet or environment. Chlorogenic acids might have anti-mutagenic effects, and coffee might influence hormone levels in beneficial ways, like lowering IGF-1, which is linked to some cancers.
Okay, so the evidence is pretty overwhelming across the board. Benefits for heart, metabolism, brain, maybe even cancer prevention. Which brings us to the practical question. How do we, listening right now, actually maximize these benefits? What's the best way to drink coffee?
Right, the million-dollar question for daily life.
What's the ideal amount, that sweet spot?
The research consistently points towards that range of 3 to 5 cups per day.
3 to 5. And how big is a cup in these studies? Because my mug is pretty big.
Huh. That's a crucial point. A cup in research is typically just 8 ounces, or about 240 milliliters, much smaller than a lot of standard coffee shop sizes or home mugs.
Okay, so maybe like 2 or 3 of my usual mugs might hit that sweet spot.
Could be, yeah. It translates to roughly 500 milligrams of caffeine per day as the optimal range for most adults.
Got it. And what about timing? I've heard you shouldn't drink it first thing when you wake up. My hand automatically reaches for the coffee maker.
Yeah, that's a common habit, but maybe not the best strategy. The recommendation is actually to wait about 90 to 120 minutes after waking up.
90 minutes? Why?
Because your body's natural cortisol levels, that's your natural alertness hormone, are highest right when you wake up. If you add caffeine on top of that peak cortisol,
It doesn't work as well.
it might diminish the caffeine's effectiveness, you might build tolerance faster, and it could even lead to more jitters or an afternoon slump later. Let your natural cortisol do its job first, then bring in the coffee.
Okay, interesting. Delay the gratification a bit. And what about the end of the day? When should the cutoff be?
The general rule of thumb is to have your last cup about 6 to 8 hours before you plan to go to sleep.
6 to 8 hours? That seems quite early.
It does, but caffeine has a half-life of around 6 hours for most people. That means half of it is still in your system 6 hours later. If you drink it too late, it can definitely interfere with sleep quality.
And bad sleep would cancel out the benefits, right?
Absolutely. Prioritizing good sleep is key. Poor sleep can negate so many health benefits, including those from coffee.
Makes sense. Okay, timing covered. What about how we make the coffee? Does the brewing method matter? Filter versus French press versus espresso?
It actually can make a difference, yeah.
How so?
Filtered coffee, like using a standard drip machine with a paper filter, is often considered the healthiest baseline, especially if you have cholesterol concerns.
Why the paper filter?
The paper filter traps most of those diterpenes, cafestol and coeal, which we mentioned earlier. In some people, these compounds can slightly raise LDL cholesterol levels.
Ah, okay. So filter is good for cholesterol. What about French press or espresso? They don't use paper filters.
Right. Unfiltered methods like French press, Turkish coffee, or espresso retain more of those cafestol and the coeal compounds.
Is that bad then?
Not necessarily. While they might slightly nudge up LDL in sensitive folks, remember those compounds also have beneficial anti-inflammatory and liver protective effects. So for people with normal cholesterol, unfiltered coffee might actually offer some additional unique benefits. It's a bit of a trade-off.
Interesting. What about cold brew? That's popular now.
Cold brew tends to be less acidic, which can be gentler on sensitive stomachs. And some research suggests it might preserve certain types of antioxidants better or extract different profiles. Still beneficial.
Okay. Any other preparation tips?
One important one. Let your coffee cool down a bit before drinking. Consuming very hot beverages, not just coffee, any very hot drink over about 149 degrees Fahrenheit or 65 Celsius has been linked to a higher risk of esophageal cancer. It's the heat, the thermal injury, not the coffee itself.
Good tip. Just let it sit for a minute.
Exactly. And hey, even instant coffee retains a good amount of the beneficial compounds and antioxidants, so don't discount it if that's your preference.
That's good to know. Okay, what about the beans themselves, quality, and what we add to the coffee?
Yeah, that definitely matters. If you can, choosing high-quality, freshly roasted beans is ideal. Organic might reduce pesticide exposure. Grinding them right before you brew preserves the freshness and aromatic compounds best.
And additions, milk, sugar.
Plain black coffee really delivers the maximum benefits with minimal calories. That's the gold standard, health-wise.
But if you can't do black coffee,
A small splash of milk or cream is generally fine. But where you can run into trouble is with loading it up with sugar, those sugary syrups, artificial sweeteners, or lots of high-fat dairy or creamers. That can quickly negate the health benefits.
so to keep it simple.
Pretty much. If you need flavor, maybe try things like cinnamon, nutmeg, or unsweetened plant-based milks.
Right. Now, despite all this positive evidence, some old worries about coffee still linger. Can we bust a few myths?
Let's do it.
What about dehydration? Does coffee dehydrate you? I feel like I've heard that forever.
That's a classic myth. It's just not true for typical consumption levels. Coffee is mostly water, so it actually contributes to your daily fluid intake.
But isn't caffeine a diuretic? Makes you pee more.
It has a very mild diuretic effect, yes, but the fluid volume in the coffee far outweighs that effect. Plus, regular drinkers develop a tolerance to that mild effect anyway. So no, coffee isn't dehydrating you.
Okay, myth busted. What about addiction? Is coffee truly addictive?
Well, you can definitely develop tolerance, meaning you need more for the same effect. And if you stop suddenly, you can experience mild withdrawal headache, fatigue, irritability.
Yeah, the caffeine headache is real.
It is, but it's generally mild and resolves within a day or two. It's not considered a true clinical addiction in the same way as, say, opioids or alcohol. It doesn't cause the severe life disruption associated with addiction.
Got it. Anxiety. Can coffee make anxiety worse?
It can, especially in people who are already prone to anxiety or sensitive to caffeine. That's where knowing your personal tolerance is key. For some, even 1 cup is too much. For others, 3 or 4 is fine.
Listen to your body. What about blood pressure? Doesn't it raise it?
It can cause a temporary short-term rise in blood pressure right after you drink it. But, and this is important, long-term studies consistently show that regular, moderate coffee consumption is not associated with high blood pressure, and might even be linked to slightly lower average blood pressure over time.
Interesting. And the acidity, people worry about that for their stomach or body pH.
Coffee is acidic, yes, around pH 5. But your stomach is far more acidic. And your body has incredibly powerful buffering systems to keep your blood pH tightly regulated. Coffee consumption doesn't meaningfully change your body's overall pH balance. It might aggravate reflux or GERD in some sensitive individuals, but that's a separate issue from overall body acidity.
Okay. And finally, light roast versus dark roast. Does one have more benefits?
They both have benefits, just slightly different profiles. Light roasts tend to retain more chlorogenic acids. Dark roasts might form more of those melanoidins during the longer roasting process. Both are good choices. Pick the one you prefer the taste of.
Good to know. So we've covered the population data, the optimal amounts, busted some myths, but this brings up a really important point. How does this apply to me, the individual listener? Because we're all different, right?
Exactly. That's such a crucial point. While the overall trends are clear from these huge studies, how coffee affects you depends on several individual factors.
Like while you...
Genetics plays a big role. There's a specific gene, CYP1A2, that codes for the main enzyme that breaks down caffeine in your liver.
CYP1A2.
Okay? People have different versions of this gene. Some are fast metabolizers. They clear caffeine quickly. Others are slow metabolizers.
And that affects how coffee feels.
Big time. Fast metabolizers might feel the buzz wear off sooner, tolerate more caffeine, and potentially experience more of the benefits. Slow metabolizers might feel jittery on less caffeine. It might keep them up at night if they drink it later in the day. And some studies suggest they might not get quite the same cardiovascular benefits or could even have slight risks with very high intake.
Fascinating. Can you get tested for that?
You can, yeah. Genetic testing can tell you if you're a fast or slow metabolizer.
What else influences individual response?
Age is a factor. Older adults often metabolize caffeine more slowly, so they might become more sensitive to its effects. Pregnancy dramatically slows caffeine metabolism too, which is why intake recommendations are much lower, typically under 200 milligrams per day, due to potential risk. Certain medications can also interact with caffeine metabolism, either speeding it up or slowing it down. So it's always good to check with your doctor or pharmacist if you're on regular medication.
Good point. An underlying health condition.
Definitely. People with certain heart rhythm issues, severe anxiety disorders, significant GEA, or pre-existing sleep disorders might need to be more cautious or limit their intake. Again, it's about that personalized approach. Your last cup timing might need to be much earlier than someone else's based on your sleep sensitivity.
So it really comes down to listening to your own body and maybe even considering your genetics or health status.
Precisely. The population data gives us a great starting point, like that 3 to 5 cup guideline. But self-awareness is key to finding your optimal coffee habit.
It's clear this is a really dynamic field. The story of coffee and health keeps evolving. What's next? What are researchers looking at now?
Oh, there's still so much exciting research happening. One huge area is the gut microbiome.
Coffee and gut bacteria.
Exactly. How does coffee, with all its compounds, influence the types and diversity of bacteria living in our gut? We know the microbiome impacts everything from immunity to mood to metabolism, so understanding coffee's role there is a big frontier.
Makes sense. What else?
Personalized nutrition is a big theme. Can we use genetic testing, like for that CYP1A2 gene, to give people tailored advice on how much coffee is best for them?
Tailored coffee plans?
Potentially, yeah. There's also work on epigenetics, how coffee might influence the expression of our genes, turning certain beneficial genes on or harmful ones off, without actually changing the DNA sequence itself. Think inflammation, metabolism, aging pathways.
Wow. And looking even deeper, like at the cellular level.
Yep. Researchers are investigating how coffee compounds might affect things like telomere length, those protective caps on our chromosomes linked to aging or mitochondrial function, the energy factories in our cells. Finding direct mechanisms like these could really explain how coffee exerts its life-extending effects.
And maybe even developing better coffee.
That too. Exploring different ale varieties, processing methods, roasting techniques, ways to potentially enhance the beneficial compounds while minimizing any less desirable ones. The story is definitely not over.
It's truly amazing when you step back and think about it. This simple, everyday drink, something people have enjoyed for centuries, turns out, through rigorous modern science, to be one of the most potent health-promoting things readily available to us. The evidence really is overwhelming now.
It really is. Regular, moderate consumption linked to lower risk of death, protection against major chronic diseases, potentially adding years of healthy life. It's quite remarkable.
Absolutely. And connecting this back to the bigger picture, it's important to stress coffee isn't a magic bullet on its own, right?
Oh, definitely not. That's crucial. Its benefits are most powerful when it's part of an overall healthy lifestyle.
Right.
You still need a balanced diet, regular exercise, enough sleep, managing stress. Coffee is a fantastic tool in the toolbox, maybe one of the best, but it works best as part of that whole healthy package.
It complements a healthy life. It doesn't replace it.
Perfectly put.
So for anyone listening who doesn't currently drink coffee, the research might actually suggest giving it a try. Moderately.
Based on the evidence, yeah, it's a reasonable consideration for many people.
And for those of us who already enjoy it.
Well, hopefully this deep dive gives you some reassurance, maybe some guidance on how to optimize things, thinking about the amount, the timing, the preparation, listening to your body.
It really reframes that morning ritual, doesn't it? It's not just about dragging yourself through the day.
Not at all.
It's actually an investment in your long-term health. It's about adding years to your life, and maybe just as importantly, adding life to your years.
Well said.
So maybe think about how you might tweak your own coffee habit based on what we've talked about. Pay attention to the timing, maybe try different preparation methods, check the quality, and definitely notice how it makes you feel.
That personal feedback is key.
Keep brewing, keep learning, and keep investing in your health, one delicious cup at a time.